Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. This is TJ, your host, and tonight we've gone right back into the gay world of narcissism. I was scanning through the Thomas Sheridan book, Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath, and there's a section that ties right into this particular series. My plan is to cover Sheridan's viewpoint from his book and then reflect my own particular experiences into the same subject. And then there's another part which is called Psychopathic Clustering. However, we'll start with the gay community. Mr. Sheridan says, this dynamic, affluent, diverse, and primarily urban subculture represents a particularly lucrative hunting ground for male creatures, as it feeds on their insatiable need for excitement, vanity, and high-level, power-based sexual promiscuity. However, very few of the gay psychopaths or creatures within this scene actually identify with homosexuality. As with all psychopaths or creatures, their ad hoc homosexuality is simply a tool to exploit and manipulate, and not a natural expression of their true identity. The gay community represents an exceptionally rich target environment for these creatures to enter and exploit. These individuals can be compared to an invading army plundering this segment of society, taking full advantage of the sexual, financial, and social opportunities the modern gay lifestyle presents to these creatures. This is why many women who have been married to these creatures are shocked to discover that their ex-spouse is now with a man. The bed-hopping bisexual creature is just expanding his predatory portfolio, and it has nothing to do with any real or meaningful embracing of their formerly self-repressed homosexuality. These creatures only ever come out of the closet with their claws and fangs extended. The targets, be they women they left behind, or queer targets that they are drawn to, will all be equally ravaged and devastated. This phony personal liberation utilized by the creature will allow them to play every sanctimonious victim card they can find to not only justify their actions, but make it seem heroic and noble. The reality is, they're just opportunistic vermin who are forging a path of misery and ruin through the lives of anybody that they can prey upon, be it queer or straight. The modern queer community in just about every Western country is almost exclusively composed of middle-class and above single men with a high level of disposable income. Well, this would be very tempting to any male creature who's looking for enablers. Gay friends of the author have expressed to him how difficult and emotionally risky looking for a long-term monogamous relationship within their culture can be, as there are no end of manipulative individuals willing to declare their eternal love for them and then move on a few weeks later to somebody brand new. This, as we've seen, is the cast iron benchmark of the overall psychopathic pathology, the idealizing, then devaluing of people. Thomas Sheridan says that he suspects the overwhelming majority of these shallow heartbreaker types within the queer community may well be psychopaths who have moved into their midst as they perceive that the narcissistic pickings are juicier. If gay men went back to being an impoverished, marginal community once more, no doubt the number of psychopaths in the gay community would massively decrease as these predators move on for more profitable conquest. And then the second part of this chapter is psychopathic clustering. Well, look who decided to join me. This is Jade. She's my daughter, and she says, hi. Thomas Sheridan tells us that a psychopathic creature has no sexuality as such, any more than it can love. They have no real viewpoints or ethics either. They believe in what you would like them to believe in, at first anyway. These creatures align themselves with belief packages and lifestyles simply as a lure or a smokescreen. It's always like this with these chameleon predators. Again, it's just business, and whatever it takes to get them what they want is what they become. It is not just amongst marginal groups and subcultures such as gays. Psychopaths move from scene to scene, subculture to subculture, new age groups, pop and dance music scenes, you name it. Now, Sheridan tells us about an old friend of his who was a former detective who worked in San Francisco as a community police officer during the late 60s. He once remarked how in the early days of the hippie scene, it really was a case of peace, love, and understanding. There were good relationships between the police and the original pacifist hippies. Sweet kids was the term he used to describe them. However, as soon as the hippie culture became mainstream, he told Sheridan, the city was literally invaded with all kinds of psychos who simply put on a headband and stitched peace signs onto their jackets and moved into the Haight-Ashbury district in the city. Before long, rapes, murders, robberies, suicides, and other negative elements invaded the idealistic and peaceful hippie scene. This was due to the psychopath or cluster B monsters moving in to the scene who became hippies in order to get the free love and other personal gratification the counterculture offered. Subsequently, as with all of these creatures and their invasions, the underlying integrity and stability of the community descended into chaos and negativity. These creatures are never team players, though, like individual flies, they can form an ad hoc swarm when they detect fertile ground to gather upon and lay their nasty, retarded, repulsive eggs in. So now is my reflection upon these sections of this book. Back to the gay community, where Thomas Sheridan talks about the queer subculture. I agree, it does serve as a lucrative hunting ground for such creatures. Because remember, these creatures many times can't handle things on their own, like let's say financially, because they live for the moment. They get their first credit card and they charge it all up and then move and change their phone number and don't ever pay it. It's short-lived, but that's how they are. So many times they are looking for someone who didn't take that path, someone who actually did what you're supposed to, and they want to cling on to that. And there are gays out there who fit those characteristics and are actually responsible. They didn't use up their good name like the creatures did. I think that applies, though, whether it's a queer psychopath, a straight, or whatever. I've noticed, too, on some of my own comments, there'll be straight guy talking about this and queer guy talking about that, and the funny thing is, it really doesn't matter. They're all doing the same sick shit. These people who, let's say, are responsible and do pay their bills, and that's not even their concern. He's saying with these, quote, gay psychopaths or cluster Bs, very few of these identify with the homosexuality, which that's the part may be true in a different area, but like in my experience, a city, you couldn't easily get away with picking up this chick and telling her she's the one, and then if she leaves, snapping your fingers and then going after a gay male. I mean, it doesn't seem feasible from the area I'm in because people talk. They're going to say, hey, my sister dated him, now he's dating him? What? I think I get what Thomas Sheridan is saying in a different atmosphere, like if it's maybe in a college town where there are new students every year. Well, maybe that kind of thing could be done easier. But he talks about the ad hoc homosexuality being used as a tool. I could see that, again, in a non-permanent type situation, like if you're in a different city doing a job and you're a male psychopath and there's a fag working there with you who happens to have things that you could benefit from. I could picture, in that case, the creature adapting and just seeing the fag and saying he wants excitement and attention and he's got all that money. Hi. And they could go into character for that. So I think in that respect Thomas Sheridan's right, but I just haven't seen that kind of thing in my experience, but I'm not here to say anybody's wrong or right. We're all different. And in that case, yes, he's not queer. He just wants whatever that person has. It's like those straight men you see who will do like queer strip things. They don't get off on any of it, but they know that the queers do, so they're like doing their dance stuff, which I could understand the opposite being done. If you're going to get a lot of money or something, well, you could go into character. I mean, anybody could. It is true as far as where he says that their queerness is simply a tool to exploit and manipulate. And it kind of mirrors the story about like the woman who marries the man and finds out the man's running off with another man. Well, he's probably running off with the other man because maybe the man had more money than the girl did that he could steal. Sheridan had talked about how the gay community does represent the exceptionally rich target environment for these types of creatures, like the straight porn stars who do gay porn for money. But yes, I agree, where he talks about how women, they're probably not attracted to the other man, but they know they're going to get $1 billion, so they just close their eyes and think about that $1 billion and they perform. Or Viagra probably helps them, who were dating these creatures, become shocked to see that their spouse is with a man. But yes, it's true, whether it's queer or not, these bed hoppers, whether it's with men or women, has nothing to do with any real or meaningful embracing of their formerly repressed queerness. He discusses the bed hopping bisexual psychopath and says he or she is not. He is just expanding his predatory portfolio, and his behaviors have nothing to do with any type of repressed or formerly repressed anything. As far as the come out of the closet, he's kind of like talking about like in a situation where a queer kid that comes out of the closet, well, with these creatures, none of that stuff goes on because they're just playing a role to get some kind of reward. So for them, they don't go through any of that. So, and I agree with, I do agree with him talking about how it doesn't matter if the targets or the victims are women or queers or men or whatever. Regardless, the target's going to be devastated. The target's going to be damaged. But I'm sure they, as he mentions, they would, like if it's normally a straight man who then switches because he finds a rich gay target, and then he later finds another rich woman, well, he might say something like, oh, I experimented with men, but I realize that's not what I want. You're what I want. And she'll fall right for it and tell her friends, oh, he thought he was gay, but he wasn't. He wants me. Like, whatever. Because remember, these aren't real people. And I agree with his statement that the reality is they are just opportunistic vermin who are forging a path of misery and ruin through the lives of anyone they can prey upon, whether it's gay, straight, dog, or cat, or rat. And then Sheridan goes on to discuss the modern gay community, and there are lots of single men with high levels of disposable income, which is, I'm sure, another reason why they'd be an attractive target to some man, because the lady he's chasing might be saying, oh, my husband left me with 6 kids and I can't afford anything, and he might be poor himself and think, oh, well, that's not for me. But if he sees some billionaire queer man who's, I'm so lonely, my spouse died, that would be like the perfect target where he could do his charming stuff. That's what they do. You think, well, how could he pretend to like another man? If it's with a woman, it's just as fake. He's pretending to like her because he wants something out of her. Not that he enjoys her wit and her comedic timing. He simply needs her for something she has that he wants to take. And yes, I agree with his state. He says gay men want to be loved and settle down just as much as any straight person, which I think is probably true. Regardless of what you are, people do eventually decide they want to settle down with something meaningful. And then for his friends, he mentions, state that it's very difficult, which I agree. It is difficult, especially in today's technology age, where there's 100 different people available, disposable, but available at any time. So if you're on a date and it's not going any good, oh, I'm leaving this date, and you could find another. It's there, and the people that are involved with another person know that it's there, that either one of them could just run elsewhere. But I really resonated with his statements about how there's no end of manipulative individuals who are willing to declare their eternal love, and then just a few weeks later they're gone to someone new. Yes, that does happen. It's a very difficult experience to have to relearn how you are interpreting and understanding language, because if you're hearing a person claim, oh, I'm just so happy with you and you, only to find that that person has run off with whomever else, it's difficult to comprehend, wait a second, me means me, and how does this other person fit? And it's fake, that's why it doesn't fit, because they're lying, and they probably told the other person, it's you. But clearly when they make such statements and claims of love, these creatures don't have any sense of what that really means, because they are claiming their undying 100% forever love for someone, while you find out at the same time, oh, there's someone else that they're running off with. And you just think, that's not possible, at least for a real person. But you'll notice, in many cases, how they do swoop in on someone and tell them all the right things, but then a better someone comes along, so they simply snap their finger and say, oh, it's not working out, bye. And then they run to the next one, and they probably tell the next one, oh, she was evil and she cheated. You're the one I want to be with. And they'll hate each other, triangulation, and it's just repulsive. But it's true. No matter what the target is, the creature is going to zoom on in, idealize them, and then later devalue them, and discard or be discarded. Sheridan suspects that a large majority of these shallow heartbreaker kinds within the queer community may well be psychopaths, as I would say, any of the cluster Bs, narcissists, whatever. And yes, I have met several such people, which it just gets to be sickening when you can predict their next behavior or even their next line they're going to use. It feels like you're in a crazy matrix, which I'm sure we are. And then at the end, he gives a statement about how, sounds like a personal opinion, that he says that if the gay men just went back to be the impoverished, marginal community they once were, then no doubt the number of psychopaths in this community would massively decrease as these predators move elsewhere, which is a nice thought, but in reality, they found their target population. Yes, it's nice to think if they would go back to what they were, but times they are changing, and in this world with these agendas, this Obama and whoever else is pushing on us with queer and transgender and transhuman and whatever else, all that stuff gets blurred. And then I included the part about the psychopathic clustering as well, because I really like how he says at the beginning that these creatures, they have no sexuality as such, any more than they can love. And that's a very good point, which we kind of touched on earlier. They don't care who it is. They're looking at the person they're targeting as basically a product that's going to give dividends to them, whatever they may be. So if it's a rich young debutante who he can't stand the way she looks, but she's rich, he may tell her every day how beautiful she is, look at her room when she's not around and find out what she's interested in, and then pretend to be interested in those things just to get her to melt for him. That is true as far as how they mirror. They don't really have any viewpoints or ethics, but they'll listen to yours. So if you are at a restaurant and you've decided it's time to eat your appetizer, you've got gum in your mouth, if you're prim proper and don't want to just throw it on the table, you may say, "Oh, I'll be right back, I'm going to the bathroom," and he may ask, "What did you do?" "Oh, I had to throw my gum away." Well, if he was in your situation, would simply take that gum out and stick it under the table, or put it on the wall. But of course he would never tell you this if he's a psychopath, whatever. He'll catch on to you. He may ask, "Well, why did you go in the bathroom to throw it away? Why didn't you use a napkin?" "Oh, I think that's disgusting." Well, he's going to catch on to that, and then the next time he's at the restaurant, "Oh, please, excuse me, I need to get rid of my gum." He'll mirror this. That's what these people do, as we've covered before. They're chameleon predators, and it's just business. Whatever it takes to get what he wants, or she wants, it's going to be done. So it's good how he mentions it's not just with certain groups or subcultures. Gays, they move on from scene to scene, which I agree. I've seen that before. It's sick, too, if you've been involved with one, where let's say you're involved in a certain scene, and this creature comes into your life and appears to be part of that same scene. Then when it's all over, they're announcing, "Oh, I found the person of my dreams," and you see a completely different character, let's say, doing things that when you were together, the person even said, "Oh, I can't stand that particular thing," and yet here it is doing that particular thing. It's just mind-boggling. But until next time, get rid of those monsters.
I am the Narcopath with a public service announcement.
The food that you're eating is poisoned.
The air that you're breathing is poison.
You're a goyim. People like me, we're called the elite. We have special antidotes that we take on a regular basis, so we're immune to it. But the idea is for all you people out there to become stupid, to become dumb and dumber, like Lloyd Christmas.
We want to make sure that your children are infertile. We want to force your children to have vaccines so they can catch disease, which is so common nowadays.
We've got the whole system set up so those of you who catch on to it and try to spread awareness are made out to be complete fools, conspiracy retards that need to wear their tinfoil hats. Well, honey, I know the truth.
Keep eating the GMOs because Monsanto's taken over. Pretty soon, every single piece of food or drink you consume will be made of genetically modified organisms, which means poison. I'm immune to it, though, so I'm not worried, but you should be.
Look, I know we're not together anymore for reasons I've discussed already.
It's really sickening how you're still telling people that I cheated on you. You see, that's one of the reasons why I had to leave you, because you were too paranoid. Never mind that your paranoia was justified. You didn't see it. As far as I'm concerned, it never happened. So all we were left with is you being a paranoid fool. You shouldn't be so paranoid and just believe people. Believe what they say. Don't go checking up on them. If you do, you might find something like you did with me.
It's really not worth it. You catch my drift?